My software saved my boss's company from bankruptcy. Then he said his favorite intern will take over my role. I can still hear his words echoing in my head, each syllable stinging like a fresh wound. My name is Danica, and I used to be the lead software developer at Arc Enterprises. Everything happened so fast that day, it felt like I was in a dream, no, a nightmare I couldn't wake from. I had poured every bit of myself into the project that saved Arc. They were on the brink of collapse, struggling to secure clients and hemorrhaging money. My software changed everything. It streamlined their logistics, reduced costs dramatically, and attracted new investors. For a short while, I was hailed as a hero. I believed I had finally found a workplace where my talents were appreciated. But then, out of nowhere, my boss, Mr. Leonard, called me into his office. The air was thick with tension, and I felt my heart pounding as I stepped into that room. He smiled in that slick, dismissive way and casually announced that Sonia, the intern, would assume my responsibilities. He explained it like it was a normal business decision. Just like that, I was cast aside. I stared at Mr. Leonard in disbelief. His words didn't make sense. Sonia was a college intern with almost no experience. She couldn't even code properly the last time I checked. Yet he claimed she had vision and fresh ideas, qualities he considered far superior to my proven track record. The subtext was clear. He valued her for reasons that had nothing to do with her professional merit. Rumors were rife that they were more than just colleagues. As he continued talking, every part of me screamed in silent protest. My eyes flicked to the plaques on his wall, achievements I had helped him earn. I wanted to grab them and smash them, or at least speak up, but I felt paralyzed. Instead, I swallowed my pride and listened. Then came the final insult, a bonus check for $50. $50, after all I had done for the company. It was less than a decent dinner would cost. I remember my face burning with humiliation and anger. It felt like a personal attack, a slap in the face to my competence and worth. I clenched my fists, fighting back tears, and quietly left his office, my dignity in tatters. In the following days, I tried to hold my head high at Arc Enterprises, but Sonia walked around like she owned the place, flaunting her new role as head of the software department. She moved into my old office, rearranged everything, and plastered her name on the door. It stung every time I saw it. My colleagues watched in stunned silence. Some whispered their disapproval, but no one dared to confront Mr. Leonard. He called me into a smaller, windowless room, a demotion in both title and respect. I was now a technical consultant, a made-up position with no real responsibilities. They wanted to keep me on a leash, presumably just in case they needed my expertise to fix the holes in Sonia's leadership. But each day, I got less and less to do. My inbox emptied, my phone stopped ringing, and even my keycard access to certain areas was revoked. I realized this wasn't just a professional setback. It was a public spectacle designed to humiliate me. The final straw came when Sonia presented my software updates to the board, taking all the credit. People clapped, praising her as a genius. At that moment, I knew I couldn't remain there any longer. One afternoon, I packed up my personal items. Photos of family, a couple of awards I had received, and my mug with the word innovator painted in bright letters. That mug once symbolized my ambition, but now it felt like a relic from another life. As I carried the box to my car, I glanced back at the Arc Enterprises logo. My heart twisted with sorrow and anger. I could have launched a verbal war, publicly shaming Mr. Leonard for his obvious favoritism. I might have revealed the incompetent mistakes Sonia made while coding. But what good would that do? The system was rigged against me, and I saw no path to redemption at Arc. Instead, I decided to leave quietly, preserving whatever dignity I had left. It hurt to think of my years of hard work going to waste. I had dedicated late nights, skipped holidays, and missed family events to craft software that rescued Arc from a certain financial crash. But they didn't care about loyalty. They cared about convenience, control, and whatever arrangement Mr. Leonard had with Sonia behind closed doors. Walking away felt like defeat, but I reminded myself, sometimes leaving is the first step toward something better. Leaving Arc Enterprises that day marked a turning point in my life. A quiet resolve brewed inside me. Yes, I felt betrayed and humiliated, but a small part of me sensed an opportunity. With my skill set and experience, I knew I could start over. The thought of building something on my own, something that no one could take away, kept me going. For days, I couldn't sleep well. I replayed the events in my head, from the triumphant moment when I first presented my software to Mr. Grillang, Leonard's final words dismissing me. I didn't want revenge just for the sake of hurting them. I wanted justice. I wanted to prove that people who exploit others would ultimately fail. I started sketching out plans. My mind buzzed with ideas, new algorithms, fresh user interfaces, potential partnership opportunities. I considered the possibility of approaching ARC's largest competitors. Why not leverage my expertise to strengthen their operations? If ARC Enterprises had taught me anything, it was that skill and knowledge are powerful currencies in the business world. I intended to make good use of both. Slowly, my anger and pain turned into a sense of purpose, fueling me to set bigger goals than I ever had before. I spent my first few weeks away from ARC in a whirlwind of networking. I attended small tech meetups, joined online communities, and reconnected with former colleagues who had also parted ways with ARC. Some had left voluntarily, while others were quietly laid off or relegated to meaningless positions. One person I reached out to was Mark, a brilliant programmer I had mentored in the early days. He quit ARC after noticing the toxic environment. When I told him about my situation and my new plan, his excitement was contagious. He immediately said he'd help me in any capacity I needed. His story was like mine. He wanted a place where talent was respected. I also approached Jasmine, an incredible systems analyst who had left ARC because she felt her contributions were overshadowed by office politics. She agreed to hear me out, and within a week, she was on board. We shared similar experiences of betrayal, frustration, and a burning desire to do things differently. Little by little, a small team formed. Everyone believed in the idea of creating a software company that could rival ARC Enterprises. More importantly, we wanted to build a culture of respect, transparency, and fairness, everything ARC lacked. With my team of trusted colleagues, I started piecing together the framework for our new venture. We met in my cramped living room, using old laptops and scribbling code on whiteboards. It wasn't glamorous, but the energy was palpable. We were driven by our shared passion and perhaps a dash of righteous indignation. We decided to call the company Pearson Systems, in honor of my grandfather's family name, which symbolized integrity and perseverance. I wanted a moniker that would constantly remind us of our guiding principles. It also provided a sense of belonging, as if we were building a family business. From the outset, we focused on developing a new and improved version of the logistics software I had originally designed at ARC. The difference was that we'd incorporate advanced machine learning capabilities, more user-friendly dashboards, and a bulletproof security system. Each line of code was written with care, aiming for both efficiency and reliability. We held intense brainstorming sessions over cheap pizza and soda, discussing how we could package our software to stand out in a crowded market. We wanted to appeal to large-scale distributors, e-commerce giants, and even healthcare providers that needed efficient supply chain management. The excitement was growing with each passing hour. One afternoon, an email landed in my inbox that took my breath away. A major distribution company, Western Freight, was curious about our project. I had reached out to them earlier, showcasing a brief demo of our software's potential. Apparently, they saw something they liked. They wanted a meeting to discuss a possible partnership. This was a make-or-break moment for Pearson Systems. If Western Freight signed on, it would mean instant credibility for our fledgling company. But preparing for this meeting was nerve-wracking. We had to polish our demo, run stress tests, and ensure everything functioned flawlessly. My team worked around the clock. I remember that night before the meeting, I couldn't sleep. Visions of ARC Enterprises kept haunting me. Flashbacks of the moment Mr. Leonard undervalued my work. I took a deep breath and reminded myself why I was doing this. I wanted to build something that no one could belittle or disregard. When morning came, we dressed in our best professional outfits and headed to Western Freight's corporate headquarters. The difference this time was that I wasn't begging for a job or recognition. I was presenting my own product, something that carried my name, my integrity, and my team's dedication. Walking into Western Freight's boardroom felt both thrilling and intimidating. The space was massive, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a panoramic view of the city. We set up our laptops and began the presentation. Each slide showcased features that outperformed the current market leaders, particularly ARC software, which had grown stale under Sonia's clueless supervision. As I spoke, I noticed the executives leaning forward in their chairs, their eyes fixed on the demonstration. Mark took the lead on the technical portion, describing the software's architecture and how it could adapt to various logistical demands. Jasmine broke down the analytics suite, explaining how real-time data could optimize shipping routes and reduce costs. We operated like a well-rehearsed orchestra, each performing our part flawlessly. By the end of the presentation, the executives looked impressed. One asked how soon we could implement the system if they approved it. Another inquired about ongoing support and customization options. Their enthusiasm was evident, but I tried to remain calm and professional, not letting my emotions get ahead of me. Finally, they asked us to wait outside while they deliberated. After what felt like an eternity, they called us back in and offered a tentative agreement worth several $1,000,000, far beyond my wildest expectations. Leaving Western Freight's building, I felt a rush of adrenaline. Our first major contract was practically in hand, pending final details. It was a moment of immense pride. My thoughts drifted to ARC Enterprises, imagining Mr. Leonard's face if he ever discovered the news. Though I knew this wasn't the end, it was a big step, proof that we were on the right track. My team and I went to a nearby cafe to celebrate with coffee and pastries. We laughed about how we'd been working out of my living room just weeks ago, and now we were on the cusp of a multi-million-dollar deal. The camaraderie in the air was electric. This was the environment I had always longed for. Supportive, collaborative, and genuine. That night, I allowed myself a brief moment of reflection. Yes, I had been deeply hurt by ARC. Their betrayal had scarred me, but it also ignited a fire within. I realized how unstoppable passion could be when fueled by injustice and a determination to prove one's worth. I no longer craved Mr. Leonard's approval. I was forging my own path, with a team that believed in me as much as I believed in them. Word traveled fast. Within a month, news of our impending partnership with Western Freight spread throughout the industry. Several companies reached out to us, curious about the software's potential. We found ourselves juggling multiple meetings and calls. It was exhilarating, but also hectic. We needed to expand our team to handle the sudden demand. Mark brought on 2 more developers he trusted, and Jasmine recruited a data scientist she had worked with in the past. Meanwhile, I focused on organizing the business side, finance, legal documents, and forming strategic partnerships. My phone buzzed constantly with offers and proposals. For a while, I thought about approaching ARC's other clients directly, but I realized I didn't need to. The companies that had once contracted ARC for their logistics solutions were now knocking on my door. They were unsatisfied with ARC's outdated platform and lackluster support. The rumor was that Sonia had no idea how to maintain the system I had built, let alone upgrade it. That knowledge gave me a sense of grim satisfaction, but I also felt a pang of sadness. ARC could have been a pioneer if they had just valued the people who made it possible. Instead, they had become a cautionary tale of mismanagement and favoritism. As Pearson systems climbed the ladder of success, rumors about ARC Enterprises continued to surface. I heard from old friends that ARC's financial situation was deteriorating. Several key clients, distributors, retailers, and even a government agency, were reconsidering their contracts. They needed reliable software and timely updates, but Sonia's department was always behind schedule. One morning, I received a text from an ex-colleague who still worked there. "We miss you," it read. "Sonia has no clue what she's doing, and Mr. Leonard is panicking." I couldn't help but feel a tinge of pity. The leadership's arrogance was coming back to haunt them. They had replaced competence with vanity, and now the whole company was paying the price. Still, I had little time for sentiment. Pearson Systems was exploding with growth. We secured more funding, allowing us to move into a modest but functional office space. Every morning, I walked through those doors, excited to tackle new challenges. No longer was I merely an employee waiting for directions. I was the one setting the course. By now, our once tiny team had grown. We had skilled programmers, savvy marketers, and dedicated support staff. Yet our core ethos never wavered: respect, recognition, and relentless innovation. Then came the day we signed our first 8-figure contract, a monumental milestone. A global e-commerce giant chose Pearson systems for their logistics and inventory management. The deal was worth $50 million, catapulting us into a new league. The press covered it as a groundbreaking partnership, and potential investors lined up at our door. On the day of the signing, my hands trembled slightly as I penned my name on the contract. This was the moment I had dreamt about. Validation for all the late nights, all the tears shed after I left ARC, and all the hours spent coding in my tiny living room. It felt surreal, yet completely deserved. After the signing, I allowed myself a moment to breathe. I remembered the day Mr. Leonard handed me that humiliating $50 bonus check. This contract was 1,000 times that sum. No, 1,000,000 times. Deep down, I felt no urge to rub it in his face. The victory spoke for itself. During our celebration dinner with the team, we toasted to the contract's success. Everyone was buzzing with excitement, but behind my smile, I felt a quiet sense of closure. I realized I was no longer defined by what ARC Enterprises did to me. I had found my own voice and used it to create something monumental. Following the e-commerce deal, Pearson Systems received an influx of offers from across the globe. We quickly expanded our operations, hiring top talent in cybersecurity, machine learning, and operations research. Offices sprang up in strategic locations, ensuring we had a global footprint to serve our international clients. Before I knew it, we were valued at over $500 million. This meteoric rise garnered media attention. Journalists wanted interviews, and I found myself on magazine covers, hailed as a prodigy who revolutionized logistics software. I embraced the spotlight but kept our mission front and center, delivering innovative solutions while treating our employees with the respect they deserve. Behind the scenes, we continued to refine our software. Even as the CEO, I still loved diving into the code whenever time allowed. There was something therapeutic about solving complex challenges with logical elegance. Mark and the other developers would joke that I was the CEO who never stopped being a coder at heart. Meanwhile, ARC Enterprises was in full-blown crisis mode. Revenue plummeted, and their share prices dropped like a rock. It was bittersweet, watching from afar as the company that once dismissed me now struggled to stay afloat. Yet I focused on building, not destroying. My success alone was testimony enough. My parents, who had always supported me, were thrilled by my sudden success. They called frequently, offering congratulations and motherly or fatherly advice. I remember my mom's words: "Pride goes before destruction, so stay humble, Danica." That stuck with me. I was proud, yes, but I knew how quickly fortunes could change. I wanted to remain grounded. My team joked about how ARC's meltdown was the best marketing campaign for Pearson Systems. Prospective clients, once loyal to ARC, were now eager to meet us. They complained of system crashes, outdated features, and incompetent support. Some had urgent deadlines to meet, and we were the only ones with a proven track record to help. Still, a part of me remained cautious. I had seen firsthand how quickly the corporate world could shift. One wrong move, and the high-stakes environment could devour us. But that caution served as a safeguard, motivating us to keep pushing the envelope. I stayed late at the office, answering emails and brainstorming with the team, remembering how lost and alone I had felt at ARC. Here, I felt united with a group of people who shared the same dream: to innovate, succeed, and never let personal bias overshadow merit. One rainy afternoon, I received a call from an unknown number. I almost let it go to voicemail, but decided to pick up. My heart nearly stopped when I heard Mr. Leonard's voice on the other end. He spoke in a tense, subdued tone, very different from the arrogant swagger I remembered. "Danica," he began, I hope you're well. We need to talk." My initial reaction was anger, then curiosity. I wondered what he could possibly want from me now. For a moment, I toyed with the idea of slamming down the phone. But my better judgment prevailed. I agreed to meet him at a neutral location, a hotel lobby near my office. When I arrived, I found a man who looked like a shell of his former self. Gone was the smug grin. His posture sagged, his eyes dull from stress or lack of sleep. As soon as we sat down, he began to plead for my help. He admitted Arc Enterprises was teetering on the edge of bankruptcy. Clients were leaving in droves, and they couldn't meet their contractual obligations. He wanted me to come back. "We can fix this together," he said, voice trembling. But I could see right through his desperation. This wasn't about atoning for his wrongdoing. He just wanted to save his own skin. Listening to Mr. Leonard's pleas felt surreal, like a twisted déjà vu. The same man who once discarded me for Sonia was now begging for mercy. He even hinted at a partnership, claiming he'd make me head of the entire technology division. The irony was too sharp to ignore. I took a deep breath, recalling the sleepless nights and the public humiliation. I remembered how he'd replaced me with someone who couldn't do the job, all for reasons that had nothing to do with skill or contribution. For a moment, I wondered if I should just walk out without a word. But I didn't want to be cruel. I let him speak, though my face remained stoic. He explained how Sonia had driven the department into chaos, missing deadlines and botching updates. The custom solutions I had originally built were falling apart because she didn't understand how to maintain them. Now the company was in shambles, and the board was threatening to remove him. He pleaded for me to reacquire Arc software licenses on favorable terms, or at least fix what was broken. The conversation was painfully ironic. I felt like I was gazing into a mirror, seeing how far I'd come and how low he had sunk. Despite his emotional pleas, I politely declined Mr. Leonard's proposal. I told him that Pearson Systems was moving forward, not backward. Rejoining Arc or patching up their mistakes was the last thing on my mind. My team and I had built a thriving enterprise based on a shared vision and mutual respect, something Arc would never have. He tried to sweeten the offer, mentioning money and high-level titles, but none of that swayed me. I already had money, and my title as CEO of Pearson Systems was more than enough. Most importantly, I had the respect of people who mattered. My dignity wasn't for sale. As I stood to leave, he grabbed my arm and whispered, "Please, Danica, I beg you." The desperation in his eyes was genuine, but I felt no sympathy. He had made his choices. Now he had to face the consequences. I gently pulled away, dropped my business card on the table, and said, "Call me if you need a software license, but I don't think it will help you." Then I walked away, leaving him slumped in that lobby chair. Stepping out into the rain, I felt a strange sense of liberation. The chains of my past had finally been shattered. A week later, I got a call from Pearson Systems' legal counsel. Arc Enterprises was bleeding money, and rumors suggested they might sell key assets or declare bankruptcy. Our lawyers informed me that Arc was quietly shopping for potential buyers to salvage what was left of the business. They wondered if I'd be interested in acquiring Arc. At first, the idea of buying Arc Enterprises felt like a twisted joke. I had spent so much energy moving beyond that place. Why would I invest in a sinking ship? But after pondering it for a while, I realized something crucial. If we purchased Arc, we could strip away its toxic elements, salvage any useful infrastructure, and ensure we gained full ownership of the software code I had originally developed. It was about control over my intellectual property and the market. The board at Pearson Systems supported the idea, suggesting it could be a strategic move, yet I remained hesitant. A part of me felt like I'd be stooping to old grudges. Was this a power play or a genuine business decision? After days of reflection, I concluded it could be both. We needed to protect our software from any possible legal entanglements, and acquiring Arc would settle that once and for all. Negotiations to acquire Arc Enterprises began in earnest. I sent in a team of financial analysts to evaluate the company's remaining assets. They discovered that Arc still had a few valuable patents and some hardware resources we could integrate into Pearson Systems. Everything else was in a sorry state. Mountains of debt, declining client lists, and disgruntled employees. Mr. Leonard and the remaining board members were desperate. Their bargaining position was weak, and they knew it. They tried to inflate the value of Arc by pointing to intangible brand recognition, but the brand was tainted by scandal and poor performance. My team was quick to counter with evidence of massive liabilities. After days of back and forth, we arrived at a price that was surprisingly low for what had once been a mid-tier tech firm. I found it ironic. The same man who had once undervalued me was now watching as his life's work was undervalued. The final meeting to sign the acquisition papers was tense. I could almost taste the bitterness in the air. Mr. P. Leonard tried to keep a straight face, but I saw how much this was killing him inside. Once again, I put pen to paper. It felt like closing a chapter of my life, one that had been both painful and formative. After the acquisition became official, I took a tour of ARC's old headquarters. The atmosphere felt haunted. Half the desks were empty, and the people who remained looked defeated. Some recognized me, offering half-hearted smiles or ashamed glances. I wondered what they thought as they saw me arrive as the new owner of the company that had once forced me out. I called an all-hands meeting in the main conference room. There I explained that Pearson Systems would absorb certain parts of ARC Enterprises, but that the ARC brand itself would be dissolved. Some employees would be offered positions at Pearson, but many would not. It was a necessary measure to ensure the toxicity of the old culture didn't seep into our thriving organization. During my speech, I caught sight of Sonia standing near the back, her arms folded defensively. She looked furious, as if she still couldn't understand how events had turned against her. I didn't call her out or make a scene. I simply finished my address and left the stage, leaving them to process the news. Later that day, a team from Pearson Systems arrived to begin the formal shutdown of ARC's operations. They removed signage, archived data, and wiped servers. I stood by, watching as the old name disappeared forever. With the acquisition complete, we formally retired the ARC Enterprises brand. All online references, social media accounts, and marketing materials were taken down or redirected to Pearson Systems. ARC's few remaining clients were given the option to transition to our solutions or seek alternatives. Most chose to come aboard, grateful for a stable platform. Mr. Leonard lost his position immediately. It was part of the deal. I wasn't interested in retaining the leadership that drove ARC into ruin. I did, however, offer severance packages to many of the lower-level employees who were simply following orders. As I watched the ARC name vanish from the industry listings, I felt a complex mix of emotions: relief, vindication, and a trace of sadness. The place I once poured my heart into was gone. Yet in its demise, I found life for my own vision. The cycle of destruction birthed a new era of innovation and respect, the very principles that formed the bedrock of Pearson Systems. I made sure the final transition was smooth, with minimal chaos for clients and employees alike. Some might call it poetic justice. I saved ARC from bankruptcy once, and in the end I bought it only to dismantle it. The ARC chapter was over, and I was free. Now free from any lingering ties to ARC, Pearson Systems thrived like never before. We expanded into new sectors: healthcare logistics, international shipping, and even aerospace supply chain. Investors showered us with opportunities, and our board of directors brimmed with enthusiasm. The company's valuation soared, crossing $500 million and aiming for more. My days were filled with meetings, strategy sessions, and product reviews. Yet I made it a priority to remain accessible. I wanted employees to feel they could approach me with ideas or concerns. This open-door culture became a cornerstone of our identity, attracting more talent. In this whirlwind of success, I sometimes remembered the old days at ARC, but the memories carried less pain. They served as lessons, reminding me of what happens when merit is overshadowed by favoritism and deceit. Many times people asked if I sought revenge. My answer was always the same: I just did what was best for my team and me. In building Pearson, I had created something so profound and influential that it made ARC's betrayal a mere stepping stone. Success had become my statement. I didn't need to gloat or point fingers. The world could see the truth for itself. 3 months after absorbing ARC, I was invited to an industry gala. It was an annual event where top executives mingled. I decided to attend, bringing Jasmine and Mark along. The venue was dazzling, with chandeliers sparkling and live music playing gently in the background. While chatting with some potential partners, I felt a tap on my shoulder. I turned to find my old boss, Mr. Leonard, standing there with Sonia by his side. They looked out of place, no longer the center of attention. Their expressions were a mix of regret and embarrassment. He tried to strike up a conversation, congratulating me on my success. Sonia remained quiet, avoiding eye contact. I responded politely, maintaining my composure. A wave of memories flooded me, but I no longer felt anger. I had moved on. I was now a CEO in my own right, respected by an industry that once overlooked me. He then awkwardly asked if there was any chance for him or Sonia to find a role at Pearson. I simply shook my head and smiled. "I'm afraid we don't have any openings that match your qualifications," I said politely. And with that, I excused myself. No dramatic confrontation, no final blow. Just calm resolve. Walking away from Mr. Leonard and Sonia at that gala felt like closing the last page of a very long book. I'd already found my victory, and it wasn't in humiliating them. It was in realizing I'd transcended their narrow world. My life was now governed by my own decisions, guided by my values, and enriched by my team's support. Pearson Systems continues to flourish. We're on track to launch a new software suite that promises to revolutionize not just logistics, but other complex operational processes as well. Everywhere I look, I see the reflection of what real leadership can achieve when it's built on trust and respect. In quiet moments, I still recall that original sting of betrayal. But it doesn't hurt the same way anymore. Instead, it reminds me of how far I've come. Betrayal catalyzed my growth, but success kept me moving forward. I no longer need anyone's approval. I stand on my own achievements. Every success story faces hurdles, and mine was no different. I stumbled, was undervalued, and discarded. But each setback fueled my determination. In the end, I built a legacy greater than anything Arca Enterprises could have imagined. And that, I believe, is the best form of closure.